You loving him after he's done unforgivable things to you isn't proof of how much you love him. It's proof that you're in a trauma bond. You can't stop thinking about him. Your chest is tight. Your stomach's in friggin' knots. This is the most addictive relationship pattern on the planet. Some days you're waiting for a text. Other days you're replaying the last thing he said that shattered you. One minute it feels like love, the best love that you have ever known. The next, like a trap. He can make you feel like you're the only person in the world, and then he can gut you with silence, cruelty, or lies like it's nothing. And somehow you still want him. And maybe you hate that part. Maybe you've tried to leave. Maybe you've already left, but you still just feel hooked and torn, like you're losing your mind trying to hold on to somebody who's hurting you. That's not love. That's a trauma bond. And here's the truth that most people just don't even say out loud, right? Trauma bonds don't just end because the relationship ends. You can be out. You could be no contact. You can still feel like he owns your mind. You feel that pull, that craving, right? That sick, desperate feeling when you see his name, you hear a song, you open your phone, you hope he's texted you, or even if you're hoping that he hasn't texted you. The pain that you're in is not proof that you made a mistake. It's proof that you're trauma bonded. Now, I'm Lisa Sonni. I'm a certified relationship coach. I'm the author of the Trauma Bond Recovery Journal and an international expert in trauma bond recovery. I created a proven method to healing called the Break and Rebuild method, and it's inside the Trauma Bond Recovery course. I work privately with women, and I also actually co-host a group coaching program with psychotherapist Dr. Peter Salerno, an abuse recovery expert who specializes in cluster B disorders. Past students have said that the group was the game changer that they didn't know that they needed. Now, if you're wondering whether or not you are trauma bonded, I have a free 2-minute quiz that will give you clarity. The results are instant, and the link is in the description. It's called Am I Trauma Bonded? Okay, this video is everything that you need to know about trauma bonds. So what exactly is a trauma bond? I'm going to tell you everything about what the hell is going on here. It's not just a toxic relationship, and it's not codependency. That word is so overused, okay? It is definitely not two people trauma bonded together. That's a myth. Trauma bonds do not go both ways, right? You, the survivor, you're bonded to the abuser through cycles of fear, pain, kindness, confusion. He's not bonded to you. It doesn't feel abusive all the time, right? That's the hook. If it did, right, if it was 24/7, you'd leave. But when he goes from cold to sweet, cruel to tender, your brain, it latches on to the relief and you start mistaking survival for love. Let's back up. The term trauma bond, it came from Dr. Patrick Carnes in the 1990s. He was actually a pioneer in addiction and abuse recovery. And in his work, he noticed this pattern with clients. People keep going back to the ones that hurt them. And in his view, it wasn't because they were weak. It was because the abuse had rewired their nervous system. He called it a trauma bond. He wrote The Betrayal Bond to explain it, and he founded the International Institute for Trauma and Addiction Professionals. His work literally changed everything we know about why we stay and why it is so hard to leave. Now, a lot of people compare trauma bonding to Stockholm syndrome, and they are similar, right? In both, the victims form an attachment to somebody who harms them, but there's a key difference. Stockholm syndrome happens in captivity, like hostages forming a bond with their captors just to survive. So when we hear that term, we kind of picture a woman chained up in a basement, right? Or trapped in some dark, violent scenario where survival means agreeing with your abuser just to stay alive. I remember once in the middle of one of probably the worst arguments that I ever had with my ex-abuser, I screamed, "I feel like I have Stockholm syndrome." And this guy laughed in my face. He looked me right in the eyes and he was like, "I'm not holding you captive, crazy." But it felt like he was, right? And that's why the comparison kind of exists, because trauma bonds are a form of emotional captivity, but it's not Stockholm syndrome. It is a trauma bond. You're not chained to a wall, but you are bound to the relationship by fear and confusion and, frankly, just enough comfort sprinkled in to keep you trapped. It happens in relationships that look like love. They feel romantic. Although I do want to add that it doesn't only happen in romantic partnerships. So there's no chains, there's no basement. In fact, doesn't it look a lot more like a 3-bedroom house in the suburbs? Just charm and confusion and control. moments of tenderness, but the whole thing is you keep questioning yourself, you keep questioning everything. These types of relationships are not built on connection. They're built on manipulation and fear and hope. Okay, they're built on intermittent reinforcement. That's cycles of abuse and affection, and it trains your brain to crave the person that is causing the pain. I remember when I first learned of trauma bonds, I was like, this is incredible to know. So please keep watching because you need to know this. That kindness, it is necessary. Without it, the bond won't form. So if he was abusive all the time, there would be no trauma bond and you would leave. The kindness, it serves a function. If he was cruel 24/7, you would leave. He pushes you too far. He pulls you back in. He breaks you. He holds you. That moment, right? That comfort, it becomes addictive. That's the bond. It's not love. It's the relief. And here's what it really feels like. Let's kind of cut through some of the clinical stuff. You're obsessed with him. You crave his approval. You take the blame for things you didn't even do. You walk on eggshells to manage his moods and just keep the peace. You convince yourself that all the good outweighs the bad. So even when you're out, you still want him back. Sometimes you don't want them back, but you cannot stop thinking about them. You are so deeply attached, right? You think about them constantly. The shower, the car, while you're making dinner, you're trying to work. Your brain won't shut off. And we think it's weakness, but it's not. It's your nervous system kind of looking for that hit of dopamine that it used to get when he would give you those pathetic little crumbs of affection. You might feel even worse after you left. Some people think it's going to feel better, right? You thought maybe it would feel like freedom. It feels like grief, panic, but it doesn't mean that you were wrong to leave. It means that your body is detoxing from somebody who became your drug. And if you keep asking, but what if he really did love me? He might have said that he did. And honestly, he might even believe it. I think if you hooked him up to a lie detector test, it might be a pass. But his version of love made you question your worth. It made you just ditch your boundaries, made you beg for basic kindness, basic human decency. That's not love. That's control. And he just dresses it up as care. You miss him and you feel stupid and weak, but you're not stupid. You were conditioned to bond with harm. I'm never going to forget something that a client once told me. She was like, I feel desperate and pathetic because I know that he's hurting me and I still love him. I still want him. This woman looked at me. She had so much shame in her eyes. She had tears in her eyes. She looked at me like she was confessing a crime. But what I told her is what I'm going to tell you. That feeling doesn't make you pathetic. It makes you a human. It means your brain did exactly what it needed to do to survive. Now you're in the process of undoing it, and it feels incredibly hard because the bond is built on two things: fear and hope. Fear that you'll never feel that spark again. You'll never feel that love, that romance. Fear that you're the problem. Fear that he'll change, but for someone else. And hope. Hope that he meant it when he said that he would get help, that he loved you, that this time will be different, that the man that he pretended to be, you know, the one that made you feel like the only woman in the world, that he still exists. The fear keeps you anxious and the hope keeps you holding on. So that back and forth, that's the trap. Now, this is where cognitive dissonance kicks in, and it is brutal. Your brain is trying to hold two completely opposite truths, right? He's hurting me, and I still want to be with him. That little war in your mind, that's the thing that keeps you stuck. Your mind tries to smooth things over. We kind of default to what's easier, what's the least painful. So we start to say things like, it wasn't all bad. He's trying. I pushed him. He's just hurt. You actually rewrite the story unconsciously to make it easier to stay or easier to go back. So even when you're gone, that loop, that can keep you stuck for months or years. Now, I go deeper into this cognitive dissonance in other videos, but what you need to know right now is this. You're not confused because you're broken. You're confused because your mind was trained to attach to chaos and call it love, right? I want to be clear. Abusers, they know what they're doing. They might not know the term trauma bond, but they know exactly how to keep you chasing them. They know when to disappear. They know when to say, I miss you. When they give you that little sad little breadcrumb of kindness, it's always right when you're pulling away. They're not confused. They're not confused. They are intentional. Now, Dr. Carnes, he outlined 7 stages of trauma bonding. Love bombing, it's that overwhelming rush of attention and intensity. Trust and dependency, they become your world. Then you see the criticism, right? And the digs can start kind of small. Gaslighting, you start to question yourself. Control, isolation, walking on eggshells. Resignation, that's where you stop resisting and it's sort of like, fine, I'll do it your way. Loss of self, you forget who you were before him. And breaking this, that has its own stages too, right? The first, realization, right? The truth starts to crack through, and then resistance, right? It's that part of you that literally wants to deny it. Then relapse, you reach out, you don't leave, you take them back, whatever, you spiral. Then the withdrawal, the panic attacks, insomnia, grief, rage, and then the reconstruction. That's when you start asking, what do I want? And then finally, the last stage, reclamation. That's when you feel whole again. That's the thing you're waiting for. That's why you're watching this video. That's when you finally stop confusing chaos for connection. So I had another client. She'd already left him. She'd done the work, but she didn't feel like free. So one day during one of our sessions, she looked up at me and she was like, oh my God, I don't miss him anymore. I felt something snap. She described it like a cord kind of breaking between them. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was a string that sort of quietly let go. That's reclamation. She had her aha moment. Dr. Ramani calls it a breaking the shelf moment. It doesn't always come with fireworks though, right? Sometimes it's just kind of peace. I would say that's what happened to me. I just woke up one day and sort of noticed that I didn't care anymore. Now the withdrawal coming out of this, that's no joke. You'll cry in your car. You'll scream into a pillow so your kids don't hear. You'll feel pathetic for missing somebody who hurt you, but you're not pathetic. You're healing. And every time that you choose to not text him, not respond, not go back, you are rewiring your brain. Every single time that you sit with that urge, you sit in the anxiety and you just let it pass, you are taking your power back. Every time you choose silence over begging, you are coming home to yourself. Not every bad relationship is a trauma bond. I get that, right? But this kind of attachment, it only happens when there's a power imbalance, when there's repeated harm and those intense highs and lows. If he was like just distant or immature, that's not a trauma bond. But if he broke you and then begged to fix you again and again, that's trauma bonding. You didn't fall in love. It feels like love, right? But you were conditioned to attach. The truth is, love doesn't make you doubt your self-worth. You don't chase safety, and it doesn't feel like survival. So if you're still stuck, right, whether you're with him, you're already out, it doesn't matter. You're asking yourself, what the hell is wrong with me? Nothing. There's nothing wrong with you. You were trauma bonded. And you can break it. Take the quiz. Am I trauma bonded? It'll give you clarity. It'll show you exactly what you're dealing with. And if you're ready to go deeper, I offer private coaching. And Dr. Peter and I, we run a group program that's helped so many women rebuild from the ground up, right? Stronger, clearer, and finally free. You're not broken and you're not in love. Say that with me. This feels like love, but it's a trauma bond. Now your turn. Subscribe if this video spoke to you, and I'm not going anywhere. Leave me a comment with any questions you have on this topic.